नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भगवते सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. So I have been asked today to speak on verse 14:12. So we will just let me share now if you're not able to see. Let me know if you're able to see it. This one here and control this. Sure. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, can you see the verse, please?
Yes, we can.
Okay, you can hear me well?
Yes.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So today's verse is from 14th chapter, the three modes of material nature. I will read the verse here. Lobha pravatti arambha karmanam nasha karmanam shah spraha rajasi etani jayante vivardhe bhartharshabha. I'll repeat it again. Lobha pravatti arambha karmanam asamaha spraha rajasi etani jayante vivardhe bhartabhrasha. Anybody want to repeat? Lobha pravarti arambha karmanam asama spraha rajasi etani jayante vivardhe bharatashabha. Anybody want to repeat?
Lobha pravritti. Go ahead, Mataji.
No, Mataji, you go ahead.
Oh, okay, Prabhuji. Okay. Lobha pravrittirarambha karmanam shamaha spriha rajasetani jayante vivrude bharatarshabha.
Anybody else?
Lobha pravriti arambha karmanam ashammaha spriha rajasi etani jayante vivritte bharatarshava.
Anybody else wants to repeat the verse? Okay, we will start. So we'll offer prayers to Guru Acharya, Guru Parampara, and all the Vaishnavas. And I request you to bless me so that I'm able to communicate what I want to say here. Om Agyanjanatimrandasya Gyananjane Shalakya Chakshurulmitamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Swavadutam Parjana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. So today's verse is Lobha Pravarti Arambha Karmanam Asama Spraha Rajasi Etan Jayante Vivardhe Bhartrashabha. So synonyms is Lobha, greed, Pravarti, activity, Arambha, endeavor, Karmanam, in activities, asamaha, uncontrollable, spraha, desire, rajasi, in the mode of passion, etani, all these, jayante, develop, vivardhe, when there is an axis, Bharata Rishabha, or chief of the descendants of Bharata. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada Ji. O chief of the Bharatas, when there is an increase in the mode of passion, the symptoms of great attachment, fruitive activity, intense endeavor, and uncontrollable desire and hankering develop. Once again, O chief of the Bharata, when there is an increase in the mode of passion, the symptoms of great attachment, fruitive activity, intense endeavor, and uncontrollable desire and hankering develop. So, purport by Srila Prabhupada, one in the mode of passion is never satisfied with the position he has already acquired. He hankers to increase his position. If he wants to construct a residential house, he tries his best to have a palatial house, as if he would be able to reside in the house eternally. And he develops a great hankering for sense gratification. There is no end to sense gratification. He always wants to remain with his family and his house and to continue the process of sense gratification. There is no cessation of this. All these symptoms should be understood as the characteristic of the mode of passion. So, we are discussing on today's chapter is the three modes of material nature. In Sanskrit or Hindi, they say Guna, Traya, Vibhag, Yoga. So basically, we are talking about Traya Vibhag of the Gunas. So I believe we already know what are the three modes of the material nature. Could anybody, tell me what are the three modes we are talking here? Because we have had already so many sessions. So it would be nice, to make it more interactive. So what are the three modes?
Mode of goodness, mode of passions, and mode of ignorance.
Very good, Prabhu. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yes. So these are the three modes. They are the three gunas. Guna is basically what it means is the ropes. Okay. So what we have discussed, I'll just let me actually, yeah, okay, that's better. So we already discussed about 14.5, material nature consists of three modes, as Prabhuji very nicely mentioned, goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the eternal living entity comes in contact with nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, he becomes conditioned by these modes. Then Lord Krishna is saying in 14.6, he's saying is, O sinless one, the mode of goodness being purer than others is illuminating and it frees one from all sinful reactions. Those situated in that mode become conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge. And the mode of passion is born of unlimited desires, longings, O son of Kunti. And because of this, the embodied living entity is bound to material fruitive actions. And 14.8, Lord Krishna is saying, O son of Bharata, know that the mode of darkness born of ignorance is delusion of all embodied living entities. The result of this mode are madness, indolence, and sleep, which bind the conditioned soul. Then 14.9, O son of Bharata, the mode of goodness conditions one to happiness, passion conditions one to fruitive action, and ignorance covering one's knowledge binds one to madness. So on a higher scale, if you see, there is something common which we have been discussing and which we in all of them, and that's I have highlighted here. You're talking about condition, you know, Lord Krishna is talking about condition, everywhere he's talking about condition, you know. So what does this conditioning means? If somebody can help me understand what is the conditioning we are talking about here. So here, yeah, what is the conditioning, or any examples you can explain here based on Lord Krishna saying conditioning. What is the conditioning we're talking about here? Yeah, let's try to make it interactive. There is again no right or wrong answer. So feel free to participate. It makes it interesting when it is interactive. So what is the conditioning or conditioned, you know, what is he talking about? And what is it getting conditioned here? Because we have already covered 11 verses, so I believe we understand what is the subject matter here. Anybody please come forward.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, we are conditioned to think and act at the bodily platform to satisfy our senses and without realizing our true nature.
Very correct. Yeah, that is one of the good answers. Anybody else? Yeah, Prabhuji, can you give any example about that?
Any form of sense enjoyment. For example, could be visually, watching something, movies or whatever, and also eating something which is just for the senses standpoint, which is not offered to the Lord.
Yeah, good point. Very good. Thank you, Prabhuji, for explaining. Anybody else wants to add to that? What is the condition means here? Like what is getting conditioned here?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Please accept my obeisance, all Krishna Shiva Prabhupada.
Jai Shri Prabhupada, Prabhuji. Your voice is a little feeble today than usual. If you, I don't know, maybe just me or everybody else.
Can you hear me?
This is much better, Prabhuji. Thank you.
So, Prabhu, conditioning is acceptance of something, getting used to something which is out of the ordinary or not natural. So one mundane example is people who study martial arts. They subject their body to a lot of hardships. For example, they'll punch the wall, hard objects with their knuckles, and on the knuckles, calluses develop. Callus is not a natural state for the knuckle, but because they keep repeatedly hitting it, it becomes hard. So that next time when they have to punch somebody, it won't hurt them. And that becomes a conditioned state. Or for police, they see so much of violence and gruesome sights. For an ordinary person, if he was to walk into a crime scene, he would be completely disturbed. But when they see it over and over again, it just bounces off their back. Nothing stays. So similarly, what Prabhu said earlier, our conditioning is we have this illusion we don't know who we are. We are eternally happy, Satchitanand, but we're trying to find the happiness in this and that. And we get used to finding happiness where actually it is very abominable, this type of happiness. But we're used to it, so we're chasing it. So that is conditioning, as my understanding.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Very nice example and very detailed explanation. I'm looking something even more simpler than that. You made it really very simple to understand. Something, anybody want to participate and let me know. Somebody says exactly like what is conditioning here, what is condition and what is getting conditioned here in this situation when Lord Krishna is talking about what is getting conditioned here. Anybody else want to come forward? Whatever has been said is very correct. Thank you, Sudhakar Velam Prabhuji, and thanks, Amritanand Prabhuji. Anybody else wants to add to this? And both are right, and everything is perfectly right. I'm just looking something very, very simple, which we can even explain to a kid in kindergarten. What is conditioning? How would we explain that? And what is getting conditioned? And we use it every day. That is interesting thing. I'll give a hint. We just can't live without it in winter or summer. We are so conditioned to it.
Condition, yeah. We see you are talking
Yes,
about.
Mataji, thank you. That was the answer I was looking for. And that's why I said there's nothing
Hare
wrong,
Krishna,
nothing
Prabhuji.
right. Yeah, so
Okay.
okay, yeah, please carry on. Yeah, continue. Yes. Anything else you want to say, Mataji?
No, AC I was saying.
Okay, good. Yeah, perfect. So AC is air conditioning, right? If we explain that, and that's what happens when I'm trying to get the Rath Yatra bus. The first question is asked by a lot of devotees: is it AC bus or a non-AC bus? You know. So what is happening to the air here? If Satyabha Mataji or Anu Mataji, if you can explain what happened to the air in the AC bus, why it is different?
Basically, it controls the atmosphere according to with the external temperature. Because if it is too hot, it gives us the opposite temperature that the requirement of to comfort the individual.
The senses, to comfort the senses, right? Yeah, very, very correct. Yes. So basically, we see that AC is a unit where a natural air is going, and out of it, a conditioned air is coming out, right? In very simple layman terms, we can say it gets conditioned either to become hot or either to become cold, like, based on how our senses are, it becomes more pleasing to us, right? Now let's go next level here. Okay, let's see, what did I have next after this? So yeah, we discussed about air conditioning. Anybody can give an example of that light also can get conditioned? Like, it's like, actually, I was a physics student, so I always trying to bring in physics examples. I think in that perspective always, how physically this thing happens from the point of physics. So please pardon me for that. It's just, again, I'm conditioned like that. So anyway, can anybody tell me if ever anybody knows? We just discussed that air has become conditioned. Can we any example where light also becomes conditioned?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Prabhuji, in the night, right, we need a light, right? Without light, we cannot see. So I believe that could be an ideal scenario. I don't know.
But how is light getting conditioned there? Because when air is coming, either it becomes warm or it becomes cold. So what type of conditioning is happening to the light here?
Means our senses are so weak, or we cannot see in the night, correct? So that's what I was trying.
Yeah, good try. Anybody else want to add to that?
Refraction.
Sorry, Prabhuji, your voice is again breaking, if you don't mind.
Refraction. When light passes from one medium to another, bends over.
Yes, very correct. Anybody else? Yes, Anu Mataji?
Maybe the light, they said we can dim the light, we can increase the light. So with the dim light, we again, I don't know, it's just how bright the light is.
Actually, Amritanand Prabhu is pretty close to what I was looking for. It's like he said very nicely, is reflection.
I mean, it's an attribute of the light, right? Yeah, the senses are so tuned to see the things in a bright light than in the dim light.
Okay, but then we are talking about our senses. I'm just talking about the light itself. I'm talking about the physical entity called light. So Thank you. Like I believe Amratan Prabhu has answered the core part of it. So when conditioning is that something has a natural state, and we are doing tweaking it in such a way that it becomes unnaturally, it starts behaving differently. That's the whole idea of being conditioned, right? So that is the point, like as Amratan Prabhu said, that if we see a spoon in a glass of water, we will feel the spoon is little higher raised, right? We always have that experience, right? So that because as per physics, the light has been bent. And I will take it to the next level after that. Anybody like has definitely seen this? What is this?
Rainbow.
Rainbow, right? So this is like conditioning of the light, that rain is falling and light is passing through that, and we see these beautiful 7 colors in there, correct? So the rainbow, the light has been conditioned by, so basically one material object, which is light, is conditioned by another material object, which is water. When it is going through it, so it loses its natural state of being white and becomes colorful. So can we say that light is conditioned here? Anybody agrees or disagrees with me here?
Difficult, Prabhu, because the 7 color spectrum makes up the light.
No,
So
but originally light is, that is right. Originally light is white, correct?
But the frequencies, no?
Yeah.
The frequency of light, when it is split, it gives us these colors. So each one will have a different frequency.
Yes, you're right, Prabhuji. But the natural state of light, if somebody says light, we always think of white light. We never think, okay, that light is going to get conditioned and to start breaking into multiple different lights. Correct? This is a conditioning happening to the white light, and white light is getting conditioned, so it breaks into 7 different colors. It would not happen in the natural state. It is happening in an unnatural state. And the unnatural state is it has to pass through water. Do you agree with me there, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji. I think
yes, please.
With that light concept, what you're trying to say, Prabhuji, here is, I remember the story with Arjuna when Krishna came to pacify the Kauravas, and Duryodhan was envy of him, and then Krishna showed his Virat Roop, and the light came from him. Everyone was not able to see Krishna's Virat Roop because the light was so, blinding. Their conditioned souls are not able to see, but only the Bhishma Pitama and other sages could able to see Krishna through that light.
Yeah, that's correct, Mataji. Basically, I'm just talking at a very basic level. I'm talking to somebody who's who's in elementary grade. So we are trying to explaining what is conditioning. So we are trying to explain that a white light is going in there into a certain object, and then the light breaks into 7 different colors. So the light has been conditioned here, just like when the natural air is coming, which may be cold or outside or hot outside, when it passes through the AC unit, that it changes its property and now becomes a hot or a cold depending on how we need it, right? So same thing here, the natural state of the light is to be in white color, right? But because it is being conditioned, when it is going through another object, it's splitting here, and it is splitting into 7 different colors, right? So I believe you accept that or no? And we are just talking about conditioning here.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's what I was looking forward. Thank you. So actually, this is what is happening in the water droplets. A white light is coming, and as Amritan Prabhu nicely mentioned, because it's passing through a prism droplet of the water, it is bending. And because the frequencies are different it bends in different, ways and in the prism. And then we say that the 7 different colors are appearing here, right? Exactly this is what happens in the material nature. So in the material nature, what we see rainbow is actually, can be done in a laboratory. When a white light passes, it breaks into 7 different colors. Like I definitely remember doing this experiment. I don't know if anybody else remembers doing it too. Well, they were in science. Anybody with me here? Yeah, I'm looking for some participation. Like anybody did this experiment while they were in science?
Yeah, Prabhu.
Yes, yeah. So we're
Yes,
seeing.
Prabhuji. Physics.
Thank you.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I really like your participation, Prabhujis and Matajis. It makes it interactive. It's not feel that, as I'm a teacher, it should feel that we are all learning together in this process. So maybe I'm wrong somewhere. So you may, so please bless me and correct me in that situation. So then if something happens to a material object, right? It is passing through a situation and it is breaking. Something could happen to the soul? If the soul, my question is now getting a little different now. Now we are going to a different level. We are starting, like we started from the kindergarten level, and now we are going all the way to, our ISKCON ICNG level. So if the soul is coming, and assume that this is the soul which is entering the material world, would something happen to that?
The
No,
soul came in contact with the matter, probably. That's the. That's how it got.
Yes, and it becomes conditioned, right?
Yes.
Just like we saw. Yeah, carry on, Koji. Yes, sure.
Chapter 2, the description of the soul is, soul always remains as is. It never changes.
But the living entity which is having that soul will change, Prabhuji. The living entity
living entity is the soul, na Prabhu?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
Atma,
no, when
Jivatma.
Actually, if you see 245, Prabhuji, let's go to 245. Let's do it together, Prabhuji. Maybe I am wrong. Okay, let's do that. Okay.
Because soul, nothing can be added or subtracted. It always remains as is. And what is actually changing is the pure ego, the sense of who I am, to a false ego.
Yes, that is correct, Prabhuji.
But the soul remains.
Yeah, the soul is always Satchidananda, but in the material nature, it loses its Satchidananda properties.
No,
it's still Satchidananda, because what is happening is the material nature is awarding it a body, right? If you go to 245, see here, Lord Krishna is saying here very nicely saying, Triya Guna Vishna Vishya Veda, Nistriya Guno Bhava Arjuna. He's saying that, that because in this material nature, the Vedas are talking about the 3 modes of material nature, because we are in the material world. When we are out of the material world, yes, then what you're saying is right, Prabhuji. But when we are in the material world, we are having a material body, then the soul is getting conditioned by these 3 modes.
No, Prabhu, that's not my understanding.
No, your understanding is correct. The soul as such will always be Satchidananda. The light will always be white only, Prabhuji. But because the light has passed through a material object, which is prism, in that situation, it has lost its, you can say it has temporarily lost its original flavor, and it has split into 7 different colors. And out of that 7, this is my understanding. This is how I thought I could take this chapter forward. So, and even though it is white, it came out with all those different colors because it got conditioned in the prism. So same thing is happening to us. We are all pure. We are all pure. We are Satchidananda. But when we enter the material world, the material nature is creating this conditioning on us.
Not on the soul, Prabhu, on the consciousness. The consciousness is the sense of I am, of being aware. And you can have a consciousness which is pure consciousness that I am the servant of Krishna. That is the correct consciousness. When it comes in contact with the material world, the soul starts thinking that he is no longer the servant, but he is the master. And then there is this body. He identifies with this body, whatever that panchabhuta or whatever. But the soul is always pure. It can never be contaminated.
Yes.
And it remains. How do you say?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Prabhuji. I agree with you. The soul will always be pure, but it is because of the false ego, it starts to get conditioned. And the false ego is the cause for its conditioning here. Right? If we go back, let's go back to original verse here. 14, here, let's talk to, let me reduce this. Okay, now see here. Where did I read it? Not here, sorry. Number 3. Okay, so, okay, as explained in the 7th chapter, beyond this, there is a superior nature. So that is the living entity. And into material nature, the superior nature is mixed by the will of the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead. And thereafter, all living entities are born of this material nature. So now we are born as part of this material nature. And when we are born, and the soul is being born here, with the body, material body here, we cannot say the soul is born. The soul is always existing. It cannot be born or cannot have a death. But like it's saying, when the living entity, maybe I'm using the wrong word, the living entity is born here in the material nature, it is getting conditioned. It is getting conditioned by the body, what it receives from the material nature. Is that a right statement?
Yes, Prabhu. The birth is the soul getting embodied with the material, physical body.
Yes, correct. So the soul, basically, maybe I used the wrong word. You're right. I can just say living entity. The living entity is getting conditioned here. So what is getting conditioned is? Sorry, yes, Prabhuji.
No, I said I'm sorry for
No, Prabhuji, please don't feel sorry. Actually, we all are learning. I said I was thinking a way how to make it more interesting, the discussion. So I know I try to invent my own ways. So basically, I should say if the living entity is, basically I used the wrong word here, so I should be saying living entity is conditioned in the material. So what would happen if the living entity is conditioned in the material world? So this what happens, this what is happening here. It goes into 14 planetary systems. We know that there are 14 planetary systems, starting from Swarga Loka on the top side, the earthly planets in the middle, and the Patal Loka in the lower side. So there we saw that the light is getting refracted into 7 different colors. And the living entity here starts falling into these 14 different planetary systems, planes. So based on the material body it has received, because Lord is saying very clearly here that the living entity is the superior nature and it has to mix with the inferior nature, and that is happening by the will of the Lord. So very important is the will of the Lord. But the will of the Lord, like a superior thing, just like oil and water don't mix together. But because of under some conditioned state, we can try to mix oil and water. And the conditioned state is the will of the Lord is because there was a desire by the living entity. There was a desire, in the heart of the living entity to enjoy separately the Lord. So that's the reason it goes and, it goes and falls into one of these 14 planetary systems. So like it is basically one universe among an unlimited universe. And this slide talks about, all the way from Satyaloka, Tapoloka, Janaloka, Maharloka, Swargaloka, Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, earthly planets. So these are the higher planets. And then we're talking about Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, Patala, and Narkaloka. So the living entity is either falls into one, based on the body he has received from the material nature, he falls into one of these planetary systems. Okay, I hope that helps. Any comments? So I just want to make sure that we all understand, or we are together, or we differ at this point. So I'm looking for some response here. Amritanan Prabhu, please come forward.
He'll just be back, Prabhu.
Okay, anybody else? So what we are saying is that the living entity is falling into one of these 14 planetary systems based on the body he has received from material nature, based on the karma he has done previously. So the material nature decides where he has to fall, just like we see how the light, it splits into 7 different colors, and then some colors are on the top, some are in the bottom, some are in the middle. The same way is happening to our living entity, which has acquired the material body from material nature. So are we here together, or we differ at this point?
But Prabhuji, living entity will be in one of the planetary systems, right?
Yes, you're correct. Yeah, one living entity in one planetary system. That's correct. Depending on what material body he has. If he have a better material body to live on the earthly planets, it will live on the earthly planets. Otherwise, it will go to, Devaloka, or even higher than that, all the way to Loka of Brahma, Lord Brahma. So
based on his desires, karma.
Correct. Based on a calculation of his desires and karma. That's right.
Sure.
So if he is in the mode of goodness, he will go to higher planetary systems. If in the mode of passion, he will be sitting in the earthly planets. And if he's in the mode of ignorance, he'll be going to lower planets. That's the whole idea here. So he's getting conditioned, the living entity is getting conditioned by different modes here, right?
Yes, probably. Yeah. And the reason for conditioning is, again, when a living entity comes in contact with the matter.
Yes.
So the living entity thinks that he can get happiness.
Yes, correct.
Right?
Wherever,
so that's the conditioning.
Yes, correct. Yeah, wherever he thinks he is, basically is his where he reaches is based on his not only just happiness, his desire. He desires to associate by those modes. Like we know that people in certain mode, they like to associate with certain people. So birds of the same feather flock together, right? So some people, they want to associate with come to the temple, while others want to go to the pub. So we know somebody who wants to be in the temple, they want to be in different mode. They want to be in the mode of goodness, while somebody who wants to go to the pub, he just wants to be in the lower mode, right? That's the point I'm trying to make here. And somebody still, they just want to keep working. They don't even want to enjoy. So they basically go to the earthly planets. You keep working there.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah, got it.
Okay, so okay, we can go further from here. So basically, I'm trying to summarize, based on what we see, that as we discussed, that there is going to be a conditioning. So somebody in mode of goodness gets conditioned by happiness and knowledge, whereas a person who is in passion or rajoguna, he has unlimited desires and fruitive actions. So he gets conditioned by this situation. He is always going to be, in that mood of always having desires and fruitive action. As Srila Prabhupada gives us the example that this gentleman has he wants to build a palatial home, and then he's not satisfied with that home. Even he wants to be sensible, enjoying there forever. While we see that some others in the mode of ignorance and tamagun, they just like to be in the mood of sleep or madness. They just want to. They're conditioned by that mode. They just like to be in that situation, right? So now, based on that, somebody is going to be passing away. When they pass away, they go to pure higher planets, as we discussed just now. And who's in goodness will go to higher planets. Who is in passion, they will be on the earthly planets. And who is in ignorance will go to the hellish planets or the animal kingdom. And we can see that, that goodness leads us to knowledge, while passion leads us to greed, and ignorance, tamagun, leads us to foolishness and illusion. Right. So basically, this summarizes that how the modes work, what is the type of conditioning the living entity has to go through, and how does he, like, after he leaves this material world, what is his next destination going to be, and what are the results of being in that mode. The result of sattva is knowledge, the result of passion is greed, and the result of ignorance is, foolishness and ignorance, illusion. Okay. So basically, yeah, this is a point I was trying to mention there also, that the 24 elements beginning from earth, water, fire, air, and are all material energy, and they constitute the Mahat Brahma. And into the material nature, the superior nature is mixed by the will of the Lord, and thereafter all living entities are born of this material nature. So we see that these are as Lord Krishna is saying clearly in the 7.4. That's the verse. So yeah, he is saying very clearly here that earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego, all together these 8 constitute my separated material energy. So these are the material energies. And what is happening is, we can see that soul is being mixed by the will of the Lord, because, and he very clearly says in the following verse, let me go to the next one here. He says, and besides this, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is another superior energy of mine, which comprises the living entities. So he's talking about living entities here, which are exploiting the resources of the material inferior energy. And the same point Lord Krishna is making here, that into the material nature, the superior nature is mixed with the will of the Lord, and thereafter all living entities are born of this material nature. Good. So now, because the living entities have different kinds of bodies in terms of different aspects of the nature, they are induced to act according to that nature. So as we were just discussing that there is a certain type of body, and based on the body that a living entity has received, it will act in a certain way because it receives happiness, and that's caused and distress in different ways. As we discussed here, that somebody who's conditioned by goodness receives happiness by knowledge, whereas somebody who is in passion, he receives happiness like when he is into fruitive actions. And somebody who's in the mode of tamoguna, he will be having happiness, if he's just sleeping maybe 12 hours or more per day, something like that. So based on that, there are varieties of happiness and distress. So whatever is happening in this world is also a function of the material modes. So like, just like these material modes, are like creation, destruction, maintenance. So Rajogun will be the cause for the creation. Tamogun will be the cause for destruction. And Sattvagun is the cause of maintenance. And these keep on happening all the time. And then the Lord, Supreme Lord, he takes the form of Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh and becomes in charge of all these three modes. So that's what we see. And then we see that the three modes are required to operate the material world, just as operating system of your computer is required to operate the whole machine. Just like this, the software operating system, as we all understand, controls the whole machine. Same way, these modes, they go about and they control the, basically, they operate this whole material nature. Everybody okay so far? Any inputs? So, like any comments?
No, Prabhu, please carry on. Good examples.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure that we are all together in this discussion. So knowledge which is not contaminated by the three modes is called transcendental knowledge. Now, Lord Krishna is discussing about the point that what is transcendental knowledge. So if we go back to our old example here, we see that the white light, which is the original light, which is not getting here, which is not coming under the different modes of this material nature, that is the transcendental mode. That is the, so the original state of the living entity, the original state of the soul, that is the white. But when it takes on a body as a living entity, it is getting conditioned. So basically, our objective is to go back and think from the same point that everything is, where it's originating and how we are coming in here and how we are getting stuck into the material nature after that, and how we can, if we think that we have to go back to the transcendental mode, then we can, think about the Lord who's in the transcendental state. So who is beyond these modes, who's nirguna, and when we pray to him, we basically go forward to him. So yeah, that's pretty much on my end. Any comments or questions?
Yeah, thank you so much, Sankarshan Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Anybody
Nice
else?
discussion, nice class. Yeah, we put it very nicely. Thank you so much. The nice examples. Yeah. I mean, that's a summary of pretty much of this chapter. Yeah. So thank you, dear devotees. This is open up, and this is a question answer section or comments or reflections, realizations, and please open up. It's good to have some discussions always. Go ahead.
Prabhu, I can ask a question.
Let's go ahead. Yeah.
So, Sankarshan Prabhu, we know that this is conditioning. So we are in a pure state. We come in contact with material nature, and we get conditioned.
Right.
We get used to something which is unnatural to us.
Right. Yep.
Now we also know that Bhakti, Hare Krishna, deconditions us.
Right.
So it removes all the nonsense which we've accumulated and makes it Krishna conscious. pure consciousness, our original whatever state.
Right. Yep.
So from one sense, this deconditioning that is happening is with the consciousness, and then of course when we leave our body, whenever the time comes, a pure devotee will then go back to Godhead.
Right. Yep.
So we also hear, at least I know from what they call that Lok Praman, Sant Tukaram, great saint in Maharashtra, he actually went even with his material body. A celestial airplane came.
That's right. Yeah, I heard that too. That's right. Yep.
I'm just trying to figure out the deconditioning, because this is end of the day matter. So how does that work? The soul is spirit. So when soul is going back, it is understandable.
Right.
So
yeah, very good question, Prabhuji. I'll explain it based on what Lord Krishna himself says. So I cannot be more precise than what he says. So the same chapter, if we go forward, basically, is being discussed in 1426 that one who engages in full devotional service is a very famous verse. Unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcend the mode of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. So I hope that explains, that he himself is saying that if we are always in the devotional service, so, and unfailing in all circumstances, and what is happening is then we transcend the modes of material nature and we come to the level of Brahman. So the question is, that how does devotional service help us? What is going to be different in the devotional service? So one way of understanding is like, a person like who is in the middle of the ocean, right? And the waves are like all of us are in the middle of the ocean, in fact, and the waves of the material world are throwing us left and right everywhere. But in the middle of the ocean, suppose we get hold of an anchor, right? And if we just hold onto the anchor, so even everything else around us may be falling, maybe getting affected by the wave, but because we are holding on to that anchor which is so strong, and that anchor is basically devotional service. So when we are always in devotional service, we are always trying to serve the Lord, we are always trying to think of him. So as Lord Krishna says in 8.7, he says, Mam Anusmara Yuddhascha. So he's saying that think of me, and at the same time do your duty also to Arjuna, and he's saying to Arjuna, Yuddha for us, we doing whatever we are doing for him, So when we are in that situation, what would happen is like these waves, the three miseries of the material world will, even though on our material physical body they may be making some impact, but our consciousness and our heart and our is going to be in a very stable ground. We have a lot of confidence in us, what we are doing, and we will not be taken away in the flow, basically like the flood takes us away, right? So the material, all these waves of material nature cannot take us away from what we are, because we are holding on to a very firm anchor in the middle of the ocean. So I hope that explains your answer, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Mardana Prabhu.
Sorry, I dropped off a little bit. Thanks, Prabhu. So the thing is, for the material body which is made of matter, and that going to Vaikuntha, does some transformation happen when it goes past the Brahmajyoti and it becomes spiritualized, like
Actually,
some body?
Yeah, what I have read is, that like the saints, the pure saints, even their body is becomes transcendental. Is because just like when we have an iron rod sitting in a fire, the iron rod takes the color of the fire, the red hot color of the fire. So same thing happens with the material body also, because the soul has become so pure that that even the body becomes pure to the extent. So like we may be able to see just the material elements through our eyes, but essentially the body has become spiritual. For those people, they I believe the Lord allows them to come into the spiritual world with their own body. So maybe if I'm wrong, somebody can correct me, but that's my understanding.
Prabhu. Thanks.
Jai, anything else? Anybody else has anything to add? Okay, so if nothing else, then let's continue. We have a Sankirtan meeting. So we would humbly request, please stay on so that we can discuss the Sankirtan activities on this weekend. World Holy Name Week is starting on the 17th. This is the day Srila Prabhupada arrived in the US to spread the holy name. So the motto is, the logo is, chant the holy name, spread the holy name, and live for holy name. So request you all, please participate the World Holy Name Festival starting on this weekend, 17th till next Friday, 1 week. This is the way that we can reach out to many people all over the world. It's a global festival. It's a part of Kirtan ministry of GBC. Our wonderful devotees all over the world, participating, and we all needs to put our efforts so that some way or other, by this process, by this way, it can touch somebody and their life will be saved. So that's the intention of doing this. Some way or other, if we are putting some efforts, so we are all hearing this as theory, but the real practical is that how do we, take it? So ultimately, the way we take it is to give this to others, this transcendental knowledge, so we don't keep it with ourselves. So then others will be also saved from this material life. So it's very important. That's Srila Prabhupada did. Very, pretty much we can say comfortably was there in the Radha Damodar temple, but in order to fulfill the orders, the desire of the spiritual master to spread the holy name, of course, this is the desire of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So basically when we take up the service of the Lord means, so we have to pray to the Supreme Lord that please engage me in your service. So when the service comes, we say, oh, I don't want to take the service. So that's not the devotion. So we should take up the service of giving out the holy name to everyone, so that somehow or other they will chant the name of Krishna in their lifetime, or they will hear in their lifetime at least once. This is called Agyada Sukriti. It's called Sukriti. That means even knowingly or unknowingly, even in the dream, even for somebody else or anything, which that somewhere or other that they have. This Sukriti, it is mentioned that their life will be spared, that they won't fall down because they have a Sukriti of the holy name in their eternal, life. That is eternal. It doesn't never diminish from that life. Even one few times we chanted the holy name, that's good enough that we can have a like a rope, a person singing in the ocean. So there is a rope that he can hold, so he won't further sink. So that's what is this holy name, or called Sukriti or Agyada Sukriti. So we can hold on it, so we won't fall down. So that's the intention, so that everybody can hold on it, so that can save the lives. So please participate, starting on this weekend. 17th is Vyasa Puja, so there will be a Kirtan, but so 18th, probably, if everybody agrees, we'll have some Nagara Sankirtan. Humbly request everybody please participate, so that many people will hear the holy name and some will take up this holy name. And that's the beginning of their journey back to Supreme. That's where it starts. I mean, in our case, we are all started like that. Some devotees on the street, or some Srila Prabhupada's books of prasadam or holy name. So thank you. And thank you. If nothing else, then let's please stay and let's continue with our Sankirtan call. So thank you so much, Sankarshan Prabhu. So we also pay our obeisances to the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. Vancha kalpatarupasya sindhu bhevacha patidana pavanebhyo Vaishnava namaha. Vaishnava ki jai. Viraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananda Gaudi Gaurav Premanande.